Concord 3 has arrived. Or has it? I've seen the negative comments. I've seen the positive comments. But honestly, none of it matters until you play the game for yourself. How does Marathon actually feel? At the end of the day, that is the question we should all be asking ourselves. You will be the one playing the game. Quick side note, this game isn't Arc Raiders, and I don't think it should be. What's up, beautiful people? I'm Cam, aka Kalua. I spent 20 hours playing the ServerSlam since launch, and holy is there a lot to unpack. The visuals, the gunplay, the economy, the AI, the shells, cores, implants, weapon attachments, factions, the loot, the immersion. How does everything fit together? Does it fit together? Before we get into it, I've been playing strictly solo. I've queued into a few teams by accident, and it didn't go well. I want to make it clear that in a game such as this, you're going to die a lot. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean the game's bad. It means there's a learning curve. And if you want to succeed, you need to adapt. You need to learn. You need to use the resources available to you to thrive. That said, let's start with a few things that didn't necessarily click for me from the get-go. You guessed it, we're talking about the UI to start. I think this is everyone's major complaint from the get-go. There's a few different layers to this. Generally speaking, I think the overall layout while in a match is good. However, there are a few things that need to have additional clarity, and honestly, I don't think it's going to be all that hard to fix. Cores and implants, the readability and clarification on these is not intuitive at all. You have to scroll over the icon to know exactly what it is. I don't think that's good for anyone. I realize they're color-coded to each respective shell, but it doesn't realistically help. There's no reason I should have to scroll over the implant/core to determine what it is while looting. While it's an issue in the vault or character setup screen, it becomes even more of an issue when you're in a raid. Trying to loot someone and not being able to decipher what is actually valuable to you feels really bad. The problem specifically with this is that I don't think it actually gets better with time. Sure, you're going to get better at reading the text and knowing what it is when you scroll over it, but you still have to scroll. I mean, let's take this instance for example. You're sitting there trying to loot, then you die because you're too busy reading each item in the inventory because you can't differentiate. That's going to leave a seriously bad taste in your mouth. Honestly, most of my issues with the UI are directly related to this. I think everything honestly will probably settle down with time. Outside of that, I really like the way everything looks. We just need way more clarity. Next up, let's talk about the TTK. The TTK is a little too low in the early game. I don't know if it's going to change as we continue to get more gear, but this is going to end up causing a lot more players to quit before they even get started. I'm a lot more stubborn than most people. I know that. I'll bash my head into the wall gladly until I come out on the other side. What can I say? I'm a masochist. I honestly found myself doing better with the crappy free kits more than the kits I actually took out. I think that's because I played more appropriately. But still, I found myself killing people with green shields in less than a second. A lot of times, they didn't have any time to react. I think the identity for this game has to be a slightly higher TTK, allowing for us to react. That is going to bring in more players. Ark has a decent TTK, and Tarkov you can die instantly. Tarkov, however, is better built for that sort of play. But even then, when it happens to you, it's not fun. That said, none of this may even matter. In the actual launch, blue and purple shields may feel exponentially better. With this game having wipes though, I'm trying to look out for the more casual population that is going to be on the grays and the greens for a bit longer than us nerds. Somehow though, I feel like the blue and purple will be evenly matched with the blue and purple guns, essentially making the TTK the same speed with higher gear, and even lower for the gray and green folks. Honestly, those are the two biggest gripes. And the good news is, they're fixable. I know TTK was lowered from last April to now, so we can make more adjustments. I knew coming into this, I liked the art style of Marathon. I played it back in April, and I enjoyed the aesthetic. But the game now is an entirely different beast. Bungie's art team has been hard at work. To put it bluntly, Marathon is absolutely beautiful. Not just visually, but atmospherically. The way everything comes together, nothing feels out of place. Even the fog adds an additional layer to the game. I know, fog. But it allows for you to play the map slightly differently than you would otherwise. And don't get me started on those damn storms. You know what it reminds me of? The Cycle Frontier. That game had nighttime storms where you typically had to be constantly running to avoid lightning strikes. The storms of Marathon are exactly like that. Also, anybody else notice the birds? I know both Hunt Showdown and Cycle had them. I really like the addition to them in the game. It creates a lot of tension. Running away from UESC, run into birds, and then you're scared because you know someone's going to be on the hunt now. Love it. From Perimeter to Dire Marsh though, there is a huge upgrade in both complexity and just the raw visuals. You can tell they made Perimeter in a quick fashion. As soon as you load into Dire Marsh, there is instant recognition that more time was put into the map. And, well, it makes sense. It's a more difficult map. Personally, I love how it's not linear. There are always multiple ways to get around the map and get to the same location. That adds a lot of nuance to fights. You have to be on high alert, and in an extraction shooter, that is always welcomed. The sound in Marathon is top notch, outside of one small thing that I'll mention here in a few. The guns and the UESC interactions, the random events happening across the map, and the weather events. Everything creates an incredibly immersive experience that leaves you wanting more. I absolutely love walking next to a wall, shooting, and hearing the echo of my gun bounce off the wall. There are sound cues to everything. While it may feel a bit overwhelming at the start, as we continue to learn the game, it is going to be nice to be able to know exactly what is going on based off of a sound. A lot of people are calling the game clunky or chunky. I have not felt that. Admittedly, I didn't play much of Destiny 2, but it feels a little bit more like a faster paced Halo to me. I think it feels intentional. Your runner feels like he has weight to him. You're able to slide, but the slide doesn't continuously send you down a slope like it does in Apex. However, it's enough to make you nimble and escape in more of a timely fashion. A lot of these takes are people that are running around with their guns out. If you pull your knife out and you run, you're much quicker. I actually love having that trade-off in the game. Knife equals speed, and gun equal preparedness. That feels good. Honestly, I doubt a lot of people are even aware of the difference, which is likely leading to their thought that the movement is chunky. Additionally, the maps are designed to be a little bit smaller. Too much movement speed is going to take away a lot of the feeling of the pacing of the actual game. Everything feels very deliberate. Let's not forget that Thief, Destroyer, and Vandal all have absurd movement. Just play one of those? Gunplay? I think this is something that everyone is going to agree on. It feels immaculate. The guns feel like that they have weight behind them. Trust me, when you pick up the sniper and you take a few shots with that bad boy, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The thing reminds me exactly of the Halo sniper, and good lord, does it feel good. Oh, by the way, there's a battle rifle, and it feels exactly like the old school Halo battle rifle. Ugh. There's a huge variety of guns, allowing for a lot of different playstyles. There's a needler type that I tend to shy away from because I literally traded with someone because the projectiles were flying as I died. Overall though, I don't want to spend too much time on this because Bungie knows how to make guns feel good. No one disagrees with that. This is going to be something that a lot of people struggle with early on and is going to be a huge barrier for entry. I think it probably needs to be adjusted to get more people into the game. The economy does not feel very rewarding through the first few matches. Early on, if you die a few times, you're going to feel exactly what I'm talking about. Meds are expensive. Ammo is expensive. You can't get backpacks early unless you're finishing your quests or contracts. Loot is a little few and far between due to the lack of a backpack. I recommend picking up literally everything and extracting. Barters, much like Tarkov, exist. If you're unfamiliar, you can trade specific items for other items from vendors. You're going to pick up on what those are very quickly because honestly, you're not really going to have a choice. You'll be low on raw credits and you won't be able to buy anything that you require. Remember, this is an extraction shooter. At the end of the day, extracting is the most important part for building up your stash value. From there, everything starts to snowball as you survive a few raids. I do like, though, that they have an auto sell feature for some of the items that do not have a legitimate use. That saves a lot of time between matches. That said, personally, I like how harsh the economy is early on. If the game's too easy, there's no risk or reward. You just zone in, zone out, and re-kit. There has to be a sense of risk. Without it, the game will literally fail. I was afraid of loot being a little too much like Arc Raiders, where a lot of it is not very meaningful. Loot feels better than I expected, but it's not really something that you pick up on until you've actually looted and extracted a couple of times. As I mentioned previously, they have the barter system. I've also found a handful of items that run from 1.1k credits up to around 4k. When I sold that 4k credit value item, it literally doubled the raw cash I had in my vault. The lockboxes and the little vaults that you find actually give you good loot. Sometimes you'll grab 500 raw credits, and that's a lot of cash money early on. On top of that, they're loaded with weapon mods, valuables, and, well, necessities. This next part is something that I actually think is one of the best parts of the game. The contracts and the faction system in the game are incredibly rewarding, especially early on. These are not something that you're going to want to gloss over. You want and you need to do them. There's so much more progression than you'd initially realize. Early on, the contracts are going to be your main source of backpacks. And, well, backpacks are mandatory. The more loot you can bring home, the faster you snowball. The contracts have all been pretty different from each other. Some, there are go out and just kill XYZ, or collect XYZ. Others, there are grab a piece of loot and go to another location to initiate some sort of protocol. All in all, there seems to be enough variance to keep it interesting. I also like that each faction has their own little story, or something that they desire more than the others. For example, Arachne is all about PvP. They're going to send you out to literally slay other runner shells, and their rewards will provide you appropriately. More on that here shortly. For each different faction, there's a pretty expansive tree. These trees are going to offer you many different purchases and just raw stat increases. I think this is going to fix a lot of the problems players might have with the game early on with movement speed, heat management, etc. But I feel like that progression is needed to keep the player interested and feeling like they're consistently working towards something. You'll notice that these trees have multiple layers to them. As you increase points, you'll unlock additional bonuses on top of what you already have. One of my favorites so far is the Heatsink EXE from CyberAcme. This increases your raw heat capacity pool, and from there, you move on to Quick Vent EXE, which increases the rate at which your stamina increases, or rather, your heat. These are going to fix a lot of the problems people have with movement. But these things aren't going to happen until you put some time into the game. I feel like that's a good thing, no? Having a sense of progression on your shells? Or, let's take a look at Arachne like I mentioned earlier, where you can literally spec into unlocking specific weaponry. Take the railgun and shotgun for example. You start off by purchasing the mods, then the weapon, and then you progress to unlocking green and blue versions of the weapons with attachments already equipped. This provides you with a deterministic way of speccing into the way that you want to play the game. Admittedly, I'm unsure of how this will progress throughout the seasons. Are they going to change these points up? Are we going to be able to unlock all of them if we put in enough time? Only time will tell. But you cannot tell me that there's not depth to the system. As a quick note, as far as performance goes, the game ran flawlessly for me. I had zero performance issues across both the network and my system. I averaged about 160 FPS on both maps during my playtest, but I do have a 7800X 3D and a 4090, so take that with a grain of salt. I have absolutely no idea how the performance will feel for the rest of the community. I have heard mixed reviews though. Honestly, this is going to be the part that matters most. Does Marathon have enough of a formula to provide longevity? I truly believe so. I think we need to consider that there's still so much to be seen, and we have no idea what the future holds for the game. New runners, new guns, new maps alone are going to bring a breath of fresh air each season. And with new maps, you're going to have new contracts. Eventually, I think it's going to get to a point where you are literally focusing on a few specific factions that you yourself prefer, because there's going to be so much content in the game. And I think that variance between players is going to be so cool. One person investing into loot speed so they can bounce out of the raid with backpacks full of loot, while others are investing into guns so they can just slay out. There's depth here. Not surface level depth, expandable depth. I think as we see cryogen and what they have planned for the late game, I think it's going to be a real eye-opener for a lot of the community. You're going to end up seeing a lot more Destiny spilling over into Marathon than I think we're going to initially realize. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Destiny has fantastic endgame content. And not to poke the bear, but I think that's a lot of the complaints about Arc Raiders, right? Where's the endgame at? Let's continue to provide Bungie feedback, both positive and negative. Let's just keep it constructive. Let's help them build a game that we can make memories in. I want this game to win. So what does Marathon actually feel like? Well, it's not Concord 3. If you made it this far and that's the answer you were hoping for, sorry not sorry. However, it does need polish in a few places, as any game does. But underneath the noise, there's something here, and I am excited to see where it goes. I'll see you on Tau Ceti, runners.